He kōna ipurangi tēnei nā te reo irirangi o Aotearoa.
Most of us enjoy a bit of retail therapy.
I did that a lot in my early 20s. I'd go buy a new dress every week.
Buying clothes.
Yeah.
Like shorts.
Yeah. We did some shopping today.
What'd you buy?
He bought some jorts.
The problem is, sometimes we end up with stuff we just don't need.
I do that quite a bit.
Oh yeah, we do. Yeah. And then we're like, oh yeah, we should buy it, we should buy it.
Yeah.
And then like when we got home and like, oh, we kind of like bought it too much.
Yeah.
I go between not wanting to spend money on things and then deciding that I'm just going to buy whatever I want.
So one extreme to the other.
One extreme to the other.
Yes, shopping can sometimes be an extreme business, but we're going to look at whether, if we take a different approach to it, a mindful approach, we can still enjoy the process and save some money. Kia ora, I'm Katy Gosset and welcome to Thrift. This episode's got a bit of philosophy, a bit of psychology, and we'll be in a Christchurch consignment store checking out some fine threads into the bargain.
So I've got a couple pieces here. Feel the fabric on that. Gorgeous.
And I do mean a bargain.
So original price on that was around $350. I mean, you can just tell the quality.
More on that a bit later on. But first, our saying in this episode, I haven't quoted a quality management practitioner before, but Philip Crosby was pretty well known in his field, and he coined the phrase, do it right the first time. And that mantra can also be applied to hitting the shops. In fact, a different take on that same idea is what the slow or mindful fashion movement calls buy once, buy well.
Not a lot of us have a lot of spare money, so I want to make sure that my money is going towards something that I really want to invest in.
That's Jacinta Fitzgerald, the Chief Executive of Mindful Fashion New Zealand.
For me, being mindful about our clothing really looks at the whole life cycle of that piece of clothing.
Buying mindfully is about sustainability, but importantly for our purposes, it's also about being thrifty. It's about finding fewer good quality items, maintaining them well, and through that, saving money. So first of all, how do we find that elusive, perfect piece of clothing? And how do we know it's the one?
I think it really starts with pausing.
So tip one from Jacinta, take a moment and think about what you really need for your wardrobe.
It might be the need for a dress for a function, it might be an outdoor piece of clothing.
Consider how you're going to fill that need.
So really trying to move away from spontaneous purchases.
Ah yes, spontaneous purchases. I know them well. I mentioned retail therapy, and of course there is that kind of excitement we get when we snap something up at the shops.
You still get that when you buy something, even if you take a bit more time to make the purchase.
Some of that thrill comes from the fact that in the last few decades, shopping's kind of evolved from something utilitarian into an activity.
Shopping became a pastime and we started going to the shops for something to do on the weekend, and that sort of built up that idea of let's go shopping.
But the sustainability movement wants to see that swing back so people buy fewer items and the best quality they can afford.
Everyone has a different amount of disposable income, so really buying something that's the best quality that meets your needs is really the best way to get value for money.
In other words, it's an investment. So you've heard the phrase investment piece.
You're sort of safeguarding yourself against having to make repeat purchases,
which would cost you more over time.
So being smarter with the way that we buy.
Now, you're probably thinking that in the current times, buying a high-end or top-quality item is off the menu. But that's where being smart comes in. Looking for items second-hand, either online or in person at consignment stores, is a great way to go.
These fabrics here, you can tell, you can literally just touch it and go, oh, that's nice.
That's Ellie Miller, who runs Time and Time Again, a consignment store in Christchurch.
One of my sayings is, thou shalt not pay retail. Why would you, when there's so many beautiful clothes out there that have got so much more life in them?
The shop's been going for 34 years. Ellie actually used to come here herself when she was a teenager, the youngest of 4 kids.
So second-hand was actually better because fourth-hand was pretty ratty. So I've always been a second-hand shopper.
Now she owns the place herself and enjoys helping others find second-hand bargains.
Just this smile on their face, and I feel good knowing that they've saved that money as well.
So what kind of money are we talking about? Consignment stores sell garments on behalf of customers. Usually the money is split 50-50. Some stores sell quality garments at half the normal retail price. Ellie sells them at about a third of their retail price. But she's only got so much space in the shop, so every coat hanger that's out there needs to be earning its keep.
We don't tend to take anything in that I can't resell for $16 to $18 in the adult section. Kids are a different story. Because those coat hangers do have to return a certain dollar value.
What constitutes a quality garment then?
Better fabrics, your linens, your cottons, your more natural fibres.
And there are also fabrics to avoid.
Your acrylic, that's shocking. It pulls up something terrible. Put it through the wash and it's a goner, It's all out of shape and, not pretty.
In fact, she stays away from fast fashion in general.
Because it doesn't last. We're looking for, items that will last the distance, that will wash over and over and still look good.
She does find something polyester in her rack, which is useful for comparing against other fabrics.
It's kind of squeaky, it's a bit crunchy, it's not going to feel as good on your skin. It hasn't got that breathability that natural fibres have.
So there are investment pieces to be had at reasonable prices in second-hand shops. And of course there are online options. We all know about Trade Me and Facebook Marketplace. But there are other online consignment stores. One of New Zealand's pre-loved platforms, Designer Wardrobe, just launched into Australia in October 2024. And a report from Thrift, an American reseller, predicts the global second-hand apparel market will reach a value of $350 billion by 2028. Here's Jacinta again.
So the resale market is actually growing much faster than the fast fashion market, which is really exciting.
In particular, it's made it easier for people to buy designer and New Zealand labels. And Jacinta should know because she's a keen op shopper herself.
I definitely am. I love that I now have that as an accessible option to buy New Zealand labels that I might not have been able to afford previously.
Whether we buy stuff new or second-hand, we can sometimes end up with an overstuffed wardrobe. I'm a classic example of this. Ironically though, most of us have a few items we really love and we wear them all the time.
So for example, the dress I'm wearing now, I actually have it in another print. And then when I saw it come out in plain black, I was just like, I have to have that dress because I know it's a staple thing that I'll wear all the time.
So this is like a grey sweater with like an animal print on it.
And this is one of your favourite items?
Yeah.
And Jacinta has her own go-to item.
I'm wearing it today. It's a black dress from a local New Zealand label. And so I love that piece of clothing and I worried about what will happen when it's no longer able to be worn because I just want to wear it forever.
And that brings us to tip 2, which is less a tip and more kind of a thing to think about. It's about the relationship you have with your things. Yes, they are just inanimate objects, but the more you have of them,
the less in touch I am with each of those things.
And did I mention the overstuffed wardrobes?
There's some really interesting statistics that talk about the amount of clothes that people have in their wardrobes that go unworn.
In fact, there's a report by an environmental organisation, the Waste and Resources Action Programme, or WRAP, that says the average adult in the United Kingdom has 118 items of clothing in their wardrobe, a quarter of which, that's 31 items, went unworn for at least a year. I feel like the gauntlet has been thrown down. I'm going to go home and take a look in my own wardrobe. I'm going to start from left to right and do a wee count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This could take some time. Well, it turns out I'm not that far off the total mentioned in the report. I also have about 8 items of clothing that I haven't worn in the last 6 months, so it's going to be off to the consignment shop with them. It also makes me realise that if I had fewer items and I wore them more often, I'd be getting way more bang for my buck.
When we buy something, it's not just the cost that we pay right then for that garment, but it's actually the cost per wear that we should be thinking about.
So if Jacinta worked out the cost per wear of her favourite dress,
it would be absolutely tiny because of the amount of times that I wear it versus something that I might pay a lot less money for at the beginning, but it actually doesn't last very long. So the cost per wear will be higher.
Of course, a lot of you are already onto this.
A thing that me and my husband say is cost per use. This is how I justify a purchase to myself and to him. So if I want a new handbag that's $400, I say, well, I'll use that every day for 3 or 4 years.
And if you work on that basis,
This dress that I'm wearing is well and truly paid itself off. I basically made money. That is girl math.
girl math, I'm going to remember that one. And that brings us to tip 3. Once you've made your investment, take care of it for a couple of reasons. Firstly, if you love it, it's going to extend its life.
Mindfully looking after our clothes is another good way to actually reduce the cost of our wardrobe.
After all, the better condition it's in, the longer it'll last.
We're keeping it in use for as long as we can so that we don't have to keep rebuying to replace it.
The other reason to look after your clothes is also a thrifty one. If you find you're no longer wearing something, it could be a way to make a bit of extra money.
If you do invest in really good quality from the beginning, you can then resell that piece because it's good enough quality.
So let's see if any of my clothes make the cut. Hello, I'm back.
Oh, here we go. You've got into that wardrobe of yours.
So what are Ali's top tips for reselling clothes?
The condition has to be excellent, so we don't want stains, holes, pilling, that sort of thing. No real signs of wear, no real signs of fade. It's got to be immaculate.
She steams all her clothes so they're wrinkle-free. She also gives customers tips on how to remove stains and clean shoes so their items have a better chance of selling. Good labels are important, and there are some cheaper ones she won't take, although being an owner-operator means she has some discretion.
If it comes in and it's a fabulous cotton, it's a fabulous linen, I'll take it in because I know I've got a customer base that will want to buy that.
It's also good to look like you actually value the clothes, so maybe don't bring them in a rubbish bag. So now it's my turn, the moment of truth.
Now, what have we got? They're beautifully presented. Fantastic, thank you. Oh, we've got a nice little stretchy number. It's in really good condition, and I think we can sell that. So that's a yes.
A couple of garments from cheaper labels get turned down. One top is a bit faded around the neckline, and another is a nice fabric, but apparently more suited to household chores.
That material is really good for turning into winter cleaners or rags around the house. And I have that with a lot of my old t-shirts. Feel that? That's what you want in your rag, but...
So in the end, I have one excellent household rag, which is pretty funny. I also have a small bag of clothes which Ali is prepared to take on and try and sell. So let's wish her luck, and I'll keep you posted as to whether she's successful. Now, a quick recap. When it comes to buying once, buying well, stop and think. What item are you actually looking for? Consider an investment piece. And what you're investing is your hard-earned money, so make sure it's a quality garment, possibly in a natural fabric. Try second-hand shops where you can buy designer and New Zealand labels in top condition at a good price. Look after the clothes you love and keep fewer of them. And go through your wardrobe, find and clean other garments that you can sell for extra money. Remember, being mindful about all of this means you're in charge.
Being intentional means that I'm taking control of what I buy and I'm buying what works for me.
Next time on Thrift, what wild foods can we find in our own neighbourhoods? We're out and about with a foraging expert. To check out that episode and others, make sure you follow us on your favourite podcast app. Special thanks to my guests in this ep, Jacinta Fitzgerald of Mindful Fashion New Zealand and Ali Miller of Time and Time Again in Christchurch. This podcast was produced and presented by me, Katy Gosset. It was mixed by Alex Harmer, and Tim Watkin is the executive producer of podcasts and series. If you have a tip to share, you can email us at thrift@rnz.co.nz. Thanks for joining us. Ka kite.